This is Logical Logistics, where we cover shipping, supply chain, logistics, and everything in between. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Our guest is Dan March. And Dan, you have a new position with the WCA. You're the new CEO, correct?
That's correct, indeed.
All right. How did that come about?
Well, my previous position within the industry was as managing editor of an industry publication called Air Cargo News, which was published in the UK, a long-standing 25-year running publication. And my previous background was in media and journalism. And during my time at Air Cargo News, we were mainly working on the airline and airport side, but our readership was mainly freight forwarders. And sometime in the early 2000s, we came across this new organization called WCA, which intrigued us that someone was putting together a very large group of freight forwarders around the world to act together and network together and create new business opportunities together. So we created, between the two companies, a couple of events to bring the freight forwarding community closer to their providers, such as airlines and airports and charter brokers, etc. During that time, I moved up in Air Cargo News to the point of being second in command of that organisation. And in 2010, I came to the end of my time with Air Cargo News. I'd served there for 6 or 7 years and was looking for a new opportunity. And WCA was an option that very much interested me. So I talked to the president, David Yoakum, and he was very keen for me to come on board, and I joined at that time in 2010. Initially with the remit to extend WCA's marketing portfolio, extend WCA's reach within the industry, and also to create a publication and materials for the industry, for the independent freight forwarding community as a whole, which we did by creating a publication called Voice of the Independent, which now has a circulation of 35,000 copies around the world.
Wow.
Of which 20,000 are hard copies and 13,000 are digital.
Okay.
So that was exciting for the forwarding community, independent forwarding community, because at last they had a platform that was dedicated to them alongside WCA that they'd never had before. In the last few years, I'd moved on from the marketing side in WCA to work much more closely with David on the commercial side of WCA and the strategy going forward for WCA, especially on our event side, but also on the business and program side.
Right.
And in the middle of last year, David, who founded the company in 1998 and has a young family, was looking to relocate from Asia back to his original home in the US and begin to hand over some of the day-to-day responsibilities to a new CEO and a newly formed board of directors. And after some consideration, I was very privileged to be appointed as CEO of the organisation as from January the 1st this year.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah,
very exciting.
It's a fascinating background. So, to recap, you originally had a journalism background.
Correct.
And through this publication, you were you aligned with the WCA.
We partnered with it on a number of events. Yeah.
So what was that transition like from going from a journalism background into a grassroots organization that combines logistics, air freight forwarding companies?
It was at times certainly challenging and a learning curve, but I think you may agree, being a journalist gives you a very broad view of the industry. You end up talking to a lot of people. You get a good global insight as to what is happening in the industry. You build a lot of connections, and David himself, before starting WCA, came from outside the industry. He was actually involved in the automotive sector. So I think sometimes a mixture of people with deep-seated knowledge of the industry who have acted as freight forwarders, combined with some management who have come from a slightly different sector is good and healthy for a company.
I fully agree there. I just through my limited experience on just this experience here in Chicago, hiring salespeople from different industries sometimes has an advantage as opposed to getting a salesperson already in the industry because of that wide array of different backgrounds and experiences. So I can see where you're coming from there.
Indeed, yeah. and launching the publication and interviewing over a few years hundreds of our members, you get a real insight view of their company, how they built their business, what their needs were, what their challenges were, and sometimes when you're working for a company in a certain position, you don't get the opportunity to talk to members from around the world about how they've built their business and what their strategy is going forward, which you can do as a journalist. So, yeah, there's certainly pros and cons, but I think for me it's been a natural move as I've slowly moved more into the commercial side of the business. I know it's fairly unusual for in medium-sized companies for journalists or editorial people to move into the commercial side, but I know a few notable cases where that has been a good success. So I hope I'm following in those footsteps to bring even greater success to WCA.
I'm sure you will. Can you tell us a little bit about the WCA? Inform us what kind of organization it is.
Yeah, sure. WCA, as I said, was formed in 1998 by the founder and now chairman David Yockham. He had a vision from his previous employment that networking smaller companies together brought real tangible advantages in a number of sectors, and through family connections, his brother already ran a freight forwarding organization. He could see from the outside that independent forwarders were very close to their customers within their market, but struggled a little bit in global expansion, finding partners around the world that could be trusted and they could work with and expand their customers' business. So his idea was to put together a network of trusted and quality agents around the world on a non-exclusive basis. So he wasn't going to tie the numbers or the number of companies per region or per member. As long as they were good companies, they were welcome to join WCA. And the thing really took off. He established it in Miami, as I said, in the late 1990s. And by the early 2000s, it was clear with the explosion in trade from Asia and especially China that he needed to move the headquarters of the organization closer to that market. So he moved to Asia a couple of years later to Bangkok to be closer, especially to the Chinese market. And that's when it really took off in numbers. He worked very hard traveling around the Asian companies and establishing relationships with the Chinese government and the Chinese Ministry of Commerce and the Chinese International Freight Forwarders Association, who we still have a very strong partnership with, and brought these companies together. And as soon as they found out they were doing better business, finding new partners, expanding their reach, expanding their portfolio, we had a real influx of new members just from word of mouth. And as it's evolved, we've added a whole suite of different benefits and programs that directly benefit the members as part of their membership. There's no extra cost for these benefits. It's part of their package. For example, probably key for WCA is the financial protection we offer. So it allows any member in any part of the world to work with another member on a profit share, logistics move, with no fear, no financial exposure, because WCA guarantees the payments between the members up to $100,000 on a member-to-member basis. So it means if you're a freight forwarder in Chicago,
Okay.
and your client wants to open up a new export market in Nigeria, you
Yes.
probably may not have a partner in Nigeria.
Right.
You certainly don't want to take the financial risk of working with an unknown in Nigeria or any other part of the world. But some, Africa and South America maybe have higher risks than other parts. But wherever you work, you want to be secure. Just by knowing they're a member of WCA, you can work with any of our partners in Nigeria, knowing you are fully financially covered. Should there be a problem with the shipment, with the payments, or with, say, that company went bankrupt, you would be covered for your exposure. So it's a great scheme. We do pay out every year on the claims. Our members know that, so they know that it's not a white elephant. It's a real protection scheme.
So is this a fee-based?
Yeah,
Right.
we have within WCA we have 6,000 freight forwarder member offices around the world.
Okay.
Which is 3,000 something companies, because some companies have 2 or 3 branch offices also registered, as well as their headquarters office. So each office pays individually. A head office will pay a certain fee, and branch offices, as a package, you pay a little bit less as a fee to be a member.
Right.
But yes, each single registered member office pays an annual fee to be a member of the WCA.
All right. So part of that fee goes into it. Would it be considered an escrow account to assure of the payment between two? We
have a account that sits with. We promise to cover up to $2 million in claims in a rolling 12-month period.
All right.
Luckily, we haven't approached yet anything quite to that level.
Right.
But we have $2 million sat in a WCA account that is entirely devoted to paying out any claims that are forthcoming from the membership.
All right. So is there a certain name for this part?
Yeah, we call it the Gold Medallion Financial Protection Program.
Okay.
And then associated with the Gold Medallion Program, when as you probably know, with freight forwarding, quite often things are complex and there may be disputes between members.
Right.
We have a full customer service department. So when a member has a dispute with another member over a shipment, we arbitrate that dispute. We give the members our opinion. If one or other of the members don't agree with our opinion, we then escalate the dispute to a dispute resolution panel. So all of the evidence is presented to the dispute resolution panel. They will then judge on whether they think it's a 50-50 fault or one or other of the agents is at fault, and then the result, the dispute is settled, and the losing agent is obliged to pay the claim.
Okay.
If they refuse to, then they are terminated from WCA. But our arbitration process currently is running at a 98.1 success rate. So we're very pleased.
Yeah, what a great service to provide for forwarders, especially on a worldwide basis.
Yeah, it really works well. It's taken it took a few years trial and error to get it to the state where we thought this is really the best system we can possibly implement. The panel of judges are made up of. We have 12 very experienced peers, WCA members who are unknown. That they are each dispute resolution panel. The judges are unknown to any of the parties, including ourselves, including me. The only person who knows who's been allocated to that panel is our head of customer services. Of those 12 people, 3 allocated each case.
Okay.
And it will become a majority decision between those 3 once they've studied the evidence as to the rights and wrongs of any dispute, which is really useful for the members, because they know that WCA isn't judging any cases, but they know they're financially protected. It's very clear in our terms and conditions of membership how the process works, and it's been a great success. I can give you another couple of benefits that we've introduced.
Please do.
One is called Partner Pay.
Okay.
Obviously, with members around the world, they're paying many international bank transfers, wire transfers every day between their partners on the jobs they're doing. And 10 or so years ago, our members were saying to us, this is a real pain. Sometimes we're only making, $150 on this job as profit, and we're losing $30 of that in wire transfer fees.
Right.
So we created Partner Pay, which allows all members to pay each other for free. Basically, they have their own account within Partner Pay. It's governed by WCA, and they pay each other through Partner Pay instantaneously without any banking fees. And that saved some of our bigger members tens of thousands of dollars a year in banking fees.
Wow.
In fact, many members save more in banking fees than it costs them to be a member of WCA in the first place.
That's fantastic.
So it's a real, that's one example of a real financial benefit to members of being a member of WCA. And I think it's unique. I don't know that there's any other organisation in the industry that offers that service.
That's great. What about the networking as far as...
Yeah, the networking is crucial. I mean, we've set up 8 regional offices around the world. We currently have just over 150 staff at WCA.
Right.
The majority of our backroom team are based in our headquarters office in Bangkok, Thailand.
Right.
But we also have offices in Amsterdam, London, Mumbai,
right.
India, Shanghai, China, Accra in Ghana, Istanbul, Turkey, Miami, USA. So Miami, USA office covers both North and South America.
Right.
For member support and customer service. Amsterdam covers Europe. Mumbai covers Indian subcontinent.
Right.
Shanghai covers China. Thailand covers, Bangkok covers Asia. Accra, Ghana covers Africa. And Istanbul covers the Middle East and Near East and former CIS countries. So we have people who are very close to the members in each of these regions. Why that is important is our members come to us hundreds of times a day around the world asking for referrals, requests. For instance, again, you're a freight forwarder in Chicago and you need a partner in the UK that has excellent perishable cargo experience, or has cold storage facilities, or has experience in time critical shipments. Whatever it may be, you can come to our staff, and in each region they know the members intimately, so that we can recommend the correct partner for you to use that has those requisite skills or facilities that you need for that business that you have acquired. So that's very useful for our members to be able to come to our experienced staff for referrals and recommendations. Also within WCA, we hold some major events each year, and these are very crucial for our members. In March, we're holding our main conference week,
Okay.
which attracts 2,500 of our members as paying delegates to attend. And during that week, they conduct, at our last meeting, over 85,000 individual one-on-one pre-arranged meetings. We have developed our own software for meetings. So again, you're in Chicago, you're coming to our meeting. you wish to meet possible partner agents, say in India and in southern half of Africa, you can look up the delegate list of WCA members who are attending. You can pre-arrange all your meetings. They all come in half-hour segments, up to 8 meetings or 10 meetings a day.
Okay.
And it's literally speed dating for agents. You go in the morning. You pick up your meeting schedule. You have a half an hour meeting. The sound alarm sounds, and you move on to your next half an hour meeting. And why that's crucial is that for 2 reasons. It's the only chance they get to meet prospective new partners and drive new business. And they also get a chance to reinforce the relationships they've already built around the world with other partners. So you can just imagine how much time, money, expense, effort is saved rather than going to have to see your partners in 15 different countries, traveling around on a business trip that might take you 2 months or 2 or 3 months of the year you'll be traveling. You can meet all of your partners during 1 week on one flight, on one hotel booking, and get all of that business done in 6 or 7 days.
Now, you said this takes place in March.
It takes place in March,
right.
Indeed.
What are the dates and what's the location?
It's from this year. It's from the 10th to 16th of March, and it's in Abu Dhabi, UAE.
Okay.
It's the first time we've taken it out of Asia. The previous 2 years were held in Hong Kong. After this year, we're moving to Singapore for a couple of years. There's not actually that many places around the world that can actually cater for 2.5 a room and exhibition stands for 2,500 people, plus another room to lunch and feed and provide gala dinner for 2,500 people. So from the early days when we had a lot of options, when WCA was smaller, the world shrinks and we have 6 or 7 great venues around the world that we can use that meet our needs. It's going to be interesting the first time in Abu Dhabi. The attendance figures that we can measure compared to last year show that we're likely to have a record attendance at the meeting. And it's a hub. I mean, Dubai is now a global logistics hub, which is obviously half an hour, 40 minutes down the road from Abu Dhabi. Yeah. So we're hopeful of a very successful conference.
Well, it sounds that like it's going to be with those numbers of attendance that you're quoting.
It's truly amazing when you turn up and you see that many agents in one room, all conducting business in one-on-one meetings together. It's quite a sight. It really is.
Yeah.
And then the social networking events in the evening. We hold some gala dinners, and we're holding a desert safari this time. Our members tell us actually an equal amount of business is conducted at the evening social networking functions as it is in the day. I mean, they just spend the evening finding new partners and talking business, and it's quite a buzz. There's a lot of tired people at the end of the week, including our staff, because it's hard work.
Yeah. Any other events during the year after March?
That's our main event.
Okay.
Within WCA, we have some specialist networks for various verticals within the industry. So we have a pharmaceutical network, a perishables network, a dangerous goods network, a relocations network, a projects network, and a time critical network.
Oh wow!
So these separate networks are for specialists in those fields.
Okay.
The projects network has its own conference every year. It was held in Prague last year and attracts close to 200 members, specialist project forwarding members. And that's a specialist conference that really goes deep into the detail of the needs and expectations and business of the project forwarding industry. And then we have the Specialist Logistics Fair, which brings some of the other specialist groups together in one location. We held it in Miami last year. That brings together the time-critical, perishables, and pharmaceutical networks.
Will it be in Miami again this year? Or?
No, the projects this year will be in Lisbon, Portugal, and the Specialist Network meeting will be in Prague, Czech Republic.
Okay. Great.
So those are two meetings we have dedicated to our specialist groups. We have one more important meeting this year, which is called the Sino International Conference.
All right. That
is held in partnership with the Chinese Ministry of Commerce and the Chinese Freight Forwarding Association.
Okay.
We've I think we're coming up to a decade of holding this event now. This is very much a China-dedicated event for agents that conduct business in China and also for Chinese agents. That attracts somewhere around 1,500, 14 to 1,500 delegates.
Okay.
We held it in Qingdao in northern China in 2015. 2016 will be in Shanghai.
Okay.
And this is, a fantastic showcase event for the very important market of China. As I said previously, David spent a huge amount of effort in the early days forging these relationships in China with the government and the government-owned forwarding association. And he actually appeared on a Chinese postage stamp and was named one of the 10 most influential logistics executives in China a few years ago. So that's the sort of influence we've managed to get in China.
Yeah.
And it's been great for our members, especially when China was opening up and it was a whole new world. People didn't know the Chinese business culture. They didn't know how to find the right partners in China. They could see these tremendous volumes of freight being generated, but penetrating the market for European or Western or American agents was never a simple task. And we like to think we managed to open a lot of doors for that trade by the efforts we made by visiting China on an almost fortnightly basis, our senior management over a number of years.
I would have to say the evidence suggests that you definitely did.
I think so.
Yeah.
China's now the engine of the world economically and certainly in terms of exports. And David was very quick to recognise that, and we're proud of what we've been able to bring to our members in terms of trade with China. And that event has grown from strength to strength, and our relationship with the Chinese ministry is very strong, and it will remain a centerpiece of the year for many of our agents, the Sino conference.
Oh,
so we hold that in the fall, normally September, October each year.
Now, what do you have any idea what the breakdown of what type of companies belong to the WCA? Is it weighted heavily towards Chinese companies just because of the sheer numbers? Or okay.
I mean, yes, we do have a lot of Chinese members, but and as a single country, China is probably it is our biggest single country market.
Right.
But if you took Europe as a whole, we have more European members than we do China.
Right.
USA and North America is similar, just a little bit behind China. Where we've really succeeded, although they're smaller markets, is penetrating some of the harder to reach places of the world, like Africa and South America, and more extremities or more difficult locations in Asia. We're proud to say that we have members in I think now 189 or 190 countries. And 785 cities or ports around the world. So there's very few countries, and I think at the moment it's only the sanctioned countries that we don't have members in. And that's one thing for this year that will be very exciting. if things continue, will be the lifting of sanctions slowly with Iran will allow us to open up in that market. We're taking obviously a close eye on it and legal advice as to when, being a US owned company, you have to be careful and abide by the rules and the timescale they put in place for companies doing business with Iranian companies. But we're hopeful that sometime maybe towards the end of this year we can begin reaching out to good Iranian freight forwarding companies again.
That would be,
and the same goes with Cuba.
Yeah, that was my next question. So the Iranian thing is a wonderful opportunity, and I was wondering is there something to be followed as far as what's happening in Cuba? Where are you at with the Cuban relationship?
Well, with Cuba, we're following closely. We have an in-house attorney in our Bangkok office. He's following the situation closely, and again, we're hoping that sometime this year. Obviously, it's not a huge export market, although there may be a surge. I think when it fully opens of exports and imports into Cuba, but we will certainly, as soon as we are legally allowed to integrate Cuban freight forwarding companies or Cuban branch offices into our organization, we will do so. It's again an exciting opportunity, and we want to fill those final few gaps where we're currently unable to take membership. I don't think North Korea is around the corner. I think that one may stay closed for a while, and also Syria. Although we do have we do have some members in the Lebanon who are doing tremendous work in Syria, bringing in aid, food, still operating, unbelievably still operating in cities like Damascus and some of the other cities in Syria, almost as a day-to-day business. But you speak to them and you say, their head, and they say, well, I was talking to my people in Syria who are bringing in food and so on this week. We couldn't speak for a while because there was a bombing and all the email lines were cut, but they're back on their phones now, so we can communicate with them. And that's just some of the sort of amazing work that our forwarders are doing.
That is absolutely amazing. Yeah, it says so much for your organization just right there. So which leads me to my next question. Obviously, that's a huge challenge in that area. What other challenges do you see right now in the WCA and the international market as a whole?
Well, there's a few years ago. I mean, we're secure in some ways now. A few years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, there were some pronouncements by the major multinational forwarders that maybe the days of the smaller regional and independent freight forwarders were coming to an end, and there would be a big consolidation over the next 5 years in the industry. Luckily for us, partly because of the great work our members do, it's actually slightly been the reverse. The top 20 forwarders in the last 2 or 3 years, their market shares very slightly declined. So we're secure that the regional and local forwarder has a future. But there are challenges at the moment, both geographically, I'm sure as you've seen in South America, especially Brazil, their economy is suffering at the moment with a big devaluation in the currency and some economic problems, and also with the fall in oil price and commodity prices affected a number of other South American countries quite drastically. So the good thing is we work with our members through these problems. So and before, when other members may suddenly be shying away from the market, thinking, this is a market that's suffering, I don't want to be involved, I could be exposed financially. They know that by working within the WCA organisation, that they're safe to work with our members in those markets. But we see an ongoing economic challenge in South America. For the next year or 18 months at least. I don't think the Brazilian economy is at the point of turnaround yet. Other challenges, there's always the challenge of disruptive new technologies coming into the industry.
Okay.
I think, again, we're in the lucky position where being a little smaller than the big logistics providers, our members can be more nimble, can adjust to a changing technology environment very quickly. People are moving very rapidly towards cloud-based systems and much greater connectivity, much greater track and traceability. And as that technology rapidly changes, big multi-million pound investments in your own in-house IT technology is becoming probably a less efficient way than taking modular important new technologies off the shelf of companies that can provide it at a very cost-effective rate. And
can you give an example? Are we talking like a simple phone app?
Anything from a phone app. I mean, if you take time to look, or you have time to look at the WCA website, you'll find something called Worldwide Information Network. Now, our big investment over the last 3 or 4 years has been in Worldwide Information Network. We've invested a number of $1 million into this system. And it is a cloud-based connectivity system for freight forwarders. It allows them to connect with each other, whatever in-house operating system they have, to allow the electronic flow of messages and documents. And it also allows full electronic messaging and document transfer with airlines using e-airway bill, which is being pushed heavily by IATA, and with the shipping lines also. So it's a modular system that offers, I think now 12 different aspects to win. Win air freight, win sea freight, win sea schedules, job orders, which is the member-to-member connection, a whole range of, and that includes Win Chat, which is an online application you can have on any of your devices, including your phone, that allows you to contact any of the Win users and message them and receive track and trace updates direct to your portable device of your shipments. And it also includes a quotes function, so you can electronically send out RFQs to partners, and it's all visible. And the days of faxing and emailing quotes and having a long email train where it's hard to track are going. You can see the entire history of a shipment through Win in one place.
And this is part of WCA membership as well?
This has been developed by WCA.
Right.
At the moment, we are rolling it out. Various modules of Win are free to WCA members.
Okay. Because this is an amazing tool.
It is an amazing tool. We finished the testing since September. The first test users have been using the e-airway bill system and the member-to-member system. And this year is going to be crucial, the rollout for us. All members will get access free at the beginning. If they like it, they'll get 500 airway bills free. If they like it, we're only going to charge $1 per master airway bill, for example, on the air freight side, going forward after that point. So it's very cost effective, considering you can save yourselves $10 to $12 of mandatory fees by airlines by producing electronic airway bills instead of the old paper ones. You know, a $1 cost for a $10 or $12 saving per airway bill is hopefully a no-brainer. So it's something we're very excited about. We've worked very hard on. And yeah, that's been our big investment. And we work with other software partners as well. Win is not a in-house cargo management system. It's a communications tool.
Okay.
So we work with many of the software providers that provide in-house cargo management software to our members, and many of those have integrated Win into their system as an add-on, so they can immediately start benefiting from the cost savings of Win without having to go through their own integration process with Win. So it's very exciting for us. It's a way forward. Technology is always scary, and disruptive technology is scary within any industry. We've all seen what it's done to taxi drivers in the form of Uber, and
yes,
and letting agencies and hotels in terms of Airbnb. I mean, I believe that they are now the biggest transport companies and accommodation companies in the world, and they don't own a single property and they don't own a single car.
Exactly.
So it's they're really technology companies.
Yes.
So there's certainly plenty of very clever people in Silicon Valley and other IT development centers around the world that are certainly looking at logistics and think there's room for some big technological improvements. And we hope we're at the forefront of this for our members.
Oh, that's fantastic. Do you have any data? How was 2015 as far as international shipping in the WCA? And do you have any projections for this year?
We don't actually carry volume or revenue data on how much our members are moving. We strictly provide the services, and we don't want to pry into the intricacies of their business. The only way we can measure how well our members are doing is on the amount of claims and any bankruptcies we see. And we're aware, obviously, of the size of our members and approximate volumes and size of business they have. What we're seeing is there's our growth in China has tempered a little.
Right.
And I think our members would say that the days of GDP growth of 12, 13% in China are probably over.
Right.
But we sort of tend to disagree a little bit with the very gloomy prospects some people are portraying on China, that it's in trouble and it's not going to be the force it was. It certainly is. I mean, it's still growing at a rate that most Western countries would be jealous of, and it's just not growing at the extraordinary rate it was. And the commodities are changing, which is good for the industry, because imports, we predict over the next 10 years, will increase to help balance out the imbalance of flows. Obviously, China until now has been very dominated by exports, and imports have been far less important, especially on the air side. We can see that balance slowly shifting, which is good for the industry, that imports into China will continue to increase as the middle class continues to grow in China. One other very interesting thing that we have picked up is there's been a noticeable increase in trade in the countries surrounding China. There's definitely some of the very low-cost manufacturing moved or has begun to move out of China and into Vietnam and some of the other surrounding countries, low-cost countries. We expect Vietnam to have a great few years in terms of export growth. Certainly, the interest in our members in the Vietnam market is high. So we expect that to be certainly a growth area in the next 2 or 3 years. Europe, for us, seems to be fairly static. One nice aside in Europe was when the Greeks fell into a big crisis earlier in 2015, and their banking was all shut down. If you were a forwarder in Greece with a Greek bank, you were unable to trade or do business because your bank account was shut down. Luckily for our members using Partner Pay, they could carry on trading. So that was a big plus for our Greek members, that they had access to their liquidity, they could carry on trading, they could carry on paying and receiving money. And that probably helped at least a couple of our Greek members survive. And we remained very close to all our Greek members during the crisis to see what we could do to help them out. So I think we had some very nice messages of gratitude from our Greek members after the banking restrictions began to be eased, that we'd sort of saved some of their bacon in terms of carrying on trading.
Wow!
But Europe generally has been fairly flat. There's been no collapse in trade in any nation that we've seen. Obviously, Greece has been suffering, but the big nations, Germany, a little slowdown in 2015. UK's been quite good, quite buoyant. Italy has picked up a little bit, and so has Spain. But no great growth in 2015.
And how about the United States?
US has been good.
Okay.
It's probably been the strongest of the highly developed Western countries. We've certainly seen growth. The port strikes on the West Coast this time last year or into early 2015 didn't help the situation. But as soon as those problems were lifted, volumes have done well throughout the year in the US.
All right. Wow, that just speaks volumes. The example of Greece speaks more volumes for your organization. So once again, we're talking to Dan March, new CEO of the WCA, correct?
Correct.
All right. I'd like to thank you for joining Logical Logistics today. To end up our conversation, I like to ask a question to all of my guests. What does the term logistics mean to you?
Well, logistics for me is an all-encompassing term. We are moving from an industry where we have very separate components of carriers, whether they be air or ocean carriers, or surface providers such as truckers, the forwarders in their own little kingdom, the shippers in their own world, the consignees in their own world, the handlers in their own world. Logistics for me, going forward, means connectivity. I think this whole supply chain now, there's a drive for efficiency, there's a drive for better communication, better information flows. And logistics to me is moving goods from one location to another in the most efficient, most beneficial way. And the only way we can achieve that is by all members of the logistics supply chain working in harmony. We have a way to go. Our members are certainly trying to play the part in creating the most efficient supply chains for their customers. But I think we're on the right path, and I think with some further direction from governing bodies, associations, and governments, there's a lot of work to do in customs to harmonise customs and to ease the burden of customs and the delays caused by customs. But I think logistics is at the same time a complex but very simple idea of moving a package or a consignment from one part of the world or one area to another in the most efficient way. And I think technology will play a big part in helping us achieve that.
Well, thank you. Once again, we are with Dan March, CEO of the WCA. Dan, what's the best way a company can find the WCA and eventually join the WCA?
If you're a freight forwarder and you've been, you do international business with other forwarders, you can contact us directly to our regional customer service departments. You'll find all the details on our website, which is www.wcaworld.com. There you'll find all the contact information, the benefits information, and a member application form. And you'll even be able to see every company around the world and look up every member on it. We don't hide it. It's all on our website. So anyone who has an interest in WCA, I advise to go to our website and have a look around and see if it's going to be of benefit to you.
And once again, that's www.wcaworld.com, correct?
Correct.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. It's really been a pleasure. And it really is, aside from being extremely interesting, it brings a lot of hope towards you hear a lot of negative of what's happening in the world today. But an organization like yours, it shows that companies are coming together, countries are coming together and doing business with each other. So it's just been a pleasure talking to you and your organization.
Same for me. Thanks very much for your time, Joe.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks.
And we'll see you next time on Logical Logistics.
Click the subscribe button for new videos every week and download us and review us on iTunes. Visit www.beslogistics.net for more logistics, transportation, and warehousing resources. Thanks for watching.